executive session.
We have a
We
motion.
move, not executive session, excuse me.
We have a motion to move that we go into executive session. We have a second. All in favor? Aye.
You have to say why.
We're going in. What I'd like to have a
Motion to go into open session.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second from the meeting up for contract negotiations following a brief 30-minute period in executive session.
I make a
All in
motion to
favor?
accept the meeting minutes of the previous meeting.
We're gonna do this. Yes, we want to have a, in terms of the agenda, I move that we have a motion to accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
I already did
She
it.
did. Did I get a second?
it.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else, Jack?
No?
No. Okay.
There's a camera, Jackie.
It's okay.
Afternoon, everyone. I feel like we're farther physically, but this is,
This way nobody can reach each other safely. No, I think
we're doing the
Well,
same
we're
way.
On a horseshoe shape.
The horseshoe shape. Hope everybody's had a good summer. Hope it's been relaxing for those of you who didn't have to work. Glad to be back here. What I had thought we would do, and I think Norm and I had a conversation about this, is we've got the Norm gracefully, see, it's been a long summer for me, did a proposed agenda for negotiations and broke out the board issues and the association issues. And we had discussed about setting up a schedule of those so that we're going to be efficient in terms of how we address them. And I think that's what we were looking to do today. Am I correct, Norm?
Yeah, I suggested we just focus at least at the beginning on non-economic.
We're ready to start it off. that way.
Association, our proposal, I think, includes 6 non-economic, what I characterize as non-economic. The board has, the board issues has substantially more. But we can take a look at some of those. I think the other thing I just wanted to follow up on is we suggested at the last meeting that how we might consider our work on future changes in health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to the teachers about that. They seem to be on board to participate in a joint committee with boards. Now, I know the board members that represent the department of the teachers and the staff are not the same, so that's something the boards can work out. But the 2 associations are willing to look at trying to get through some of the issues of health insurance as a subcommittee. That won't necessarily look at what the cost is, but if we do agree to stay with VHI, VHI insists that we offer all 4 plans, and I think what we have to do is look at that, how that might work to everybody's advantage. So I don't know if you've had a chance to consider that from your point of view, but it seems that the 2 associations can take up that issue anytime.
I think that's great. We have reached out to the head of the board team for the teachers to have a conversation. I think as these guys indicated last time we were together, they felt that they needed to have that conversation with them first.
Okay.
About that. We're making steps towards getting that meeting together. Part of it is getting that other team actually constituted.
Nice.
And part of that has been the summer, in terms of getting people to focus in on it, to be honest with you. My expectation is it's going to happen pretty quickly because of what the deadlines are in terms of when we have to notify VHI or not regarding whether or not we're going to be offering their plans. And that really puts, I think, pressure on both sides to come to the table sooner rather than later, which is why we had discussed that with you all. So hopefully that will be happening in the next couple of weeks, that these guys can have that meeting.
Yeah. Is everybody aware that VHI changed what their plans were? The plan was on January 1st of 18. If they didn't have anybody's enrollment, they were going to put everybody in the platinum program. They now changed their position on that, and it's going to be in the
Gold.
gold.
The highest deductible.
Yeah, the high deductible plan. So it kind of changed.
I'm not sure I understand all of the ins and outs of this, but it seems to me that their date for enrollment is November of 2017.
Right.
Yes.
So that's a year and 2 or 3 months away, 2 months away. The way I see the health insurance issue is that there are really two. There's one, the bargaining that goes on between the associations and the school boards, which basically is around money. And since VHI says that you're supposed to offer all 4 plans, the second part, which I think is separate, is providing information to the member, to the employee. Which plan are they going to select? Because if they're in insurance now, the only way they continue insurance is select one of 4 plans. Why can't they, my theory is, why can't you do that by next June or July? And, because this whole thing about the default, what you're talking about is the default thing. I'm going like, I'm not sure waiting till the default crisis falls in on us is the right way to go. It seems to me that you make an informed judgment. You got a year to do it. I ought to be able to figure out whether I want the lowest deductibles or the highest deductibles. It really is a matter of what kind of health you have, what your family's like. I don't know the answer, but you could throw the dice and pick one of 4. If you don't pick it, you're going to get the silver HCDHP plan, which is a maximum of $8,000 out of pocket, I think, or something like that. And I'm not saying that might not be the best plan for somebody, but not for everybody.
Yeah, I don't, I agree with you. It's an interesting arbitrary date that they said, have a default plan kick into place. I think it does spur us to have that conversation, and I do think that we're hopeful that we don't get to the precipice of having the issue of a default plan. That we can actually, in fact, have that resolution of where we can go forward from a health insurance perspective. And whether or not we're continuing on with VHI, and that I think is also one of the base questions that all school districts have to look at. And what I will tell you, and I think Norm probably knows this as well, you're talking pretty much every school district in Vermont is going to have to enter into some
Yep.
negotiation, whether it's limited to the healthcare issue,
Yep.
or they're going to be doing it flat out from soup to nuts, doing it this year to make it for that, default, to try and make that decision before the default deadline comes up. So I think those are all very good questions. One of the things I would say, and Leon is going to say to me, well, we were going to discuss this later, but what I want to get is whether or not it would be beneficial to have somebody come down and talk about what those plans are for the employees. It's something that within the context of doing negotiations for other districts that we've done that. In terms of having, I don't know if you guys have had an information session from VHI about it.
They did.
We met up at Westmount.
I had that, but.
So you guys did?
I thought that the teachers,
There was a night
They had
that
another
people
one.
in place could
the
come.
Marquette.
Right.
Right, I mean,
down already.
yeah, they may have, and it may make sense to maybe schedule another one. If that's something you're all interested in, please let Norm know, and either one of us can talk to them about doing that.
In one of the meetings that I attended, there was a discussion of like a checklist that, VHI works with this company called Gallagher out of Chicago or something, health insurance experts. Somebody mentioned like having a checklist that would help you to decide which plan was best for you. Like, do you have chronic disease?
Right.
Do you have heart disease? Do you have diabetes? Because those things will start to move you towards one plan or another. are you 25 years old and unmarried, male, who hasn't been to the who only went to the doctor 5 years ago, and they said your blood pressure is like 115 over 12? You don't really need the highest premium plan. I mean, that's,
Your health risk.
yeah. So I was hoping they would do that, because it would certainly be helpful for most of us to go through and say, you know, not that it forced you into anything, but it would guide you towards the smarter choice. And, but I think there was a discussion of that, and I think it's absolutely necessary that we have more than, this is a big district, we got 400 and something employees I think we represent, for them to get their questions answered. But I'm thinking, if you know all that information and you can't make a decision by November 15th of 2017, then you're a procrastinator like I am. And you're never going to make it until the deadline comes. I'm never going to write that term paper until the night before. I'm never going to write that. But I think it's within our power, even though it might be arbitrary, is to set an earlier deadline, that once people select, then the school administration can, without going crazy, can make, report those things to the insurance company. They can do all the paperwork, and on January 1st of 2018, everything's smooth.
Yeah, and I think the November number is kind of their drop dead date.
Yeah.
We could do it anytime, once we get, but we need to know what the final rates are gonna be before that,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure when they're gonna have those.
Well, that's a holdup from my colleagues, is it's like, well, until we complete the negotiations, we're not gonna know how much. I say, we don't know how much anyway, because health insurance rates and increases and how much the board will pay and how much that's always in negotiations.
I don't mean to cut things short, but I mean, we're gonna have some time, and we're gonna talk about healthcare, and we're gonna have a joint meeting with the teachers,
Good.
board members to discuss that later on. The goal here tonight was to plan a list of items for our meeting from what we supposed to get together and have them down as topics so we can get these things out of the way. We're gonna get to all of those things, so I just wanna get a clear cut objective and get these things documented.
Well, my suggestion was that we try to focus on, I'm sorry. Nobody ever calls me except today. If I can figure out how to shut it off.
That's wonderful.
Could I just say one last thing about the health insurance? So I think one thing that was very hard about the information night on the health insurance last year that they did, it was that after work hours and things like that. And there's a lot of people that after work, they don't want to be running back out, and a lot of our employees are out of Bennington, that they don't all live in Bennington. I know for myself, I did not come to that meeting because I finally get out of work at 5 o'clock and then I've got to run to Bennington at 7 for another meeting about health insurance. I didn't do it. That I think when they do this meeting for the employees on health insurance, that possibly think about an in-service day so that all the employees are there and so everybody's kind of forced to find out the information. That it could be an in-service day that could be done. Myself, I think, there's in-service days in March or whatever, because I think it makes it very hard. And there's also, I know on our support staff, a lot of our support staff also do double jobs. So it makes it very hard for them to say, oh, all right, I've got to meet at the Blue Seats at 7 o'clock tonight, when they may be working.
I want to say, Norm, you're absolutely right. I think we can give them a drop dead date in June. Because the contract should be settled by then. So we should.
Yeah, but
We should.
my only point was, that I'm not sure, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but that is not absolutely tied to the plan that you think is best for you, I think.
Yep.
And if you wait to have one thing done before you do the other, you're going to be in this so-called default period, which doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so how would I suggested we look at, we have 6 items that I characterize as non-economic. Then we have, the other items have some economic impact. My experience is that economic issues usually get dealt with as a package at some point because they result in a cost to the district. But we have issues, and we know we reviewed them before, but we had a proposal to deal with the issue of employees being assaulted. And we know that it's not something unique to this district by any means, it happens everywhere. We've got a couple proposals on the Family Medical Leave Act. What we've asked is to consider having all of the members covered by the Family Medical Leave Act. We know that there are government-imposed restrictions. Since the Family Medical Leave Act are basically unpaid leaves, we think that it's as important to, I mean, we have people sitting around the table now, some who are eligible and some who are not.
So
And we
that's
just think they
16.
ought to all be eligible.
That's 16-4,
Yeah.
the next meeting is September the 6th. So what we're talking about is what items we want to do that. So
Right.
you mentioned 14-7, and now and then 16-4 is
Yeah.
one to go on for the 6th.
14.7 is non-economic, 16.4, 16.9. We have a proposal of 20.3 to correct the overtime language. You also have a proposal to change the overtime language, so that's obviously going to get done at the same time. We have a non-economic proposal to restrict dispensing of medications to only licensed people and not have other school employees, secretaries, and paras do that. And we also had a proposal, 21.3, that is in regard to scheduling vacations. And we think there can be a simpler, basically it's for custodians and maintenance people, but we think there's a simpler process to do that. And it would take some minor language changes to do it. Those are the 6 items that we have that I think we'd like to focus on at the beginning. And maybe we could do the same thing with the board and then come up with a list.
Right there.
Oh. Association. What is 6 items you have just read off? No, I'm just giving you numbers.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are,
And then this one, and this one must be, yeah, it's an addition. So that gives you an additional language.
Okay. So now I see all the layups.
Yep.
21.3. So that's the 6 items. And then
Right. So from ours, I think there's some that go together that we could talk about. First, one would go with 5 together, so those two should
let
be.
me make sure I get a note.
9.7 would go with a 10.12. I'm just bumping, I'm putting them together sort of topically for you.
19.7,
9.7,
9.7.
10.12.
yep, 9.7, and,
So that's 1 and 5 on your list, Norm.
yep,
The issues regarding all of the seniority, the bumping, I think that might be a longer conversation, but I think we should start having that conversation. So 10.7, 10.8, 10.9, 11.3 all work together.
all the layoff and recall.
Right, it all falls within seniority, layoff, recall, assignment issue, right?
Right.
So that actually may be enough for doing.
Will be.
having that conversation, because I think that's going to be a longer conversation, I think, in terms of, you know, we have some pretty deep, oh God, I sound like Saturday Night Live from back in the day, pretty deep thoughts about the issues regarding that seniority and issues of equity and things of that nature that we'd like to address.
Well, it also is, let's see, there's a transfer provision.
Yeah, that's the revision of employee, the 11.3, I put that. That's probably gonna be a start of a conversation. I have a feeling we're gonna need to talk about that and sort of what we envision as the scope of that.
So that's a lot.
That is a lot.
September 6th, and I'm just saying, how do we?
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, I mean, I think if we take those as sort of, those are the first ones we're gonna do, if we get through, what we get through September 6th, what we don't get through September 6th,
Put to the
we
next.
put to the next
Okay.
meeting. Does that make sense to you, Lynn? Does that make sense to the board?
Yes.
So I think we've sort of highlighted where we'd like to begin with, so at least that way, I know what I need to make sure that I bring in terms of presenting
All right.
to you all, and having that conversation.
So, just to recap, I think you said 9.7, and I thought 9.7 and 10.12 were 2 and 7.
No, 1 and
Really?
5.
9.7, 11.3.
Nope.
No,
Five.
1 and
So
5.
number 1 and number 5 go together.
Right.
I'm gonna remove the provision numbers and just go with how you
Okay.
listed them. I would say that 2, 3, 4, and 6 go together as a group to talk about. And what I'm envisioning between what you're proposing to initially start off for yours and for us,
Okay.
that we'll probably talk about the criminal background check, that, and then I have a feeling at the next meeting we'll be dealing with the more significant 2, 3, 4, and 6.
Well, I'd be interested to hear your concerns about the layoff and recall language and seniority and those things, because they, you know, it's interesting we can all kind of look at what will happen, how will it work if we have a situation. I don't think we've got, I asked earlier, and I don't think we currently have anybody laid off and on a recall list, fortunately. But of course, it could happen, and if it does happen, it should work smoothly.
Right.
We hope.
We would hope that it would be
Yeah.
smooth, yeah.
Okay.
I think generally speaking that, you know, some of these issues, so that putting it, I guess, in context, is that also, you know, there's a possibility that this district is going to actually contemplate whether or not they're going to change how their structure is and do things. That's going to have, if they do that, if that's how the electorate and the boards want to move forward, they're going to have issues that they're going to want to do. There's some things currently that we see based upon things that have happened in the past that need to sort of, we think need to be addressed or maybe tweaked a little bit as well.
Are these, do these have anything like looking at Act 46? I don't know where the district is. Is Act 46 kind of coming to some point with
It's
the
with a
whole
study group
supervisory
right now.
union?
Yeah, they have a study group, so there's nothing that's hard or fast about it.
Well, I just noticed in one of your proposals of, on counting seniority from the first day of employment from any of the districts, which of course will happen if we all become one district and there'll be one employer. And I think currently the majority of the paras are already supervisory union employees.
There are.
That happened a long time ago.
Right. I mean, this district, interestingly enough, has had a consolidation of special ed.
A long time ago.
Far before.
It happened almost by magic. Somebody called me up one day and said, my contract now says supervisory union. I said, I was smart. I said, good.
There you go, see, it made it easier.
Yeah,
It
it
made
could
it a lot
have been a
easier.
long fight.
Right, you know, they're just, having one contract and having one contract
Yeah.
is what I think is one of our goals and that we're envisioning and that the boards have about doing that. I think it brings clarity for everyone. I think it resolves those issues. Thankfully, we haven't had the recall layoff issue crop up. But hopefully, addressing these things to make sure that they're smooth and we can do it. And be more responsive. This is a very large SU. And so to be, I think, more responsive in terms of the changes that happen in this SU from a student perspective and being able to address those are concerns that the board has as well.
He was just referring to 10.8.
Yep. Yep.
I just I'm just trying to make sure that, because we recorded, it's 10.8, the discussion was on in terms of seniority items along that line throughout the district is what Norm was referring to.
So, it seems to me, so we've got September 6th is our next date, right?
Right.
Did we do a date after?
Yeah,
We got the 20th.
September 20th.
Okay, so,
2 weeks.
And that we're in the same place and same time, right?
Right.
Same channels.
same,
No, we'll have,
In the building anyways.
you'll have about 6.
Seems like the CDC will host this once again.
We meet at 3:30, we meet the board at 4.
okay. I didn't have my phone this time, that's what I did. Because I didn't actually have
We already set the 6th and the 20th.
and we already did, yeah, I knew we did, and I knew I had it in my notes.
So meetings are still 4 PM, right?
Right.
So should we use the rest of our time in caucus to prepare for the next meeting?
I think so, because
that make sense?
you have to travel, I have to travel, and so I don't think we get a lot of
Yep.
FaceTime.
Well, I have to travel too.
Yeah, we all, we don't get a lot of FaceTime, so why don't we do that? I think that might be beneficial, if that works for all of you.
But when we come back, when we do what we're talking about, we want to be able to make sure we understand the rationale. I think your mom mentioned it, some of the items on here, trying to make sure we understand them so we can make sure we make the right decision for the things and those that we have down, to make sure everybody knows the rationale behind it and how we propose to really manage it and why.
What I find is helpful sometimes in complicated issues like layoff and recall is that you deal with it first conceptually. What is it we want? What is it we're trying to get to have happen? Because sometimes the specific language gets too confusing. If we say, look, what we want to do is have everybody on a seniority list, and we want them, and we figure that out, then we can write it. But so I hope when we get into that discussion, we can just talk about what it is that we think we want for the future and what's going to be a better deal. We obviously are looking, you try to protect people as best you can. You try to tell people that the longer you've been an employee, the more job security you have. And of course, the employers have different needs but we need to accommodate both. So if we can talk about that, we can.
On that particular item, we're on the same
Yeah.
page.
All right.
All right.
Okay, we'll
We need a motion.
we'll adjourn into our,
What we'll do, and we won't be coming back here.
right, we're
Okay.
done for the day, we're gonna
So
caucus.
what
and
we'll
then
need
go
a
home.
motion is in the open meeting and go into an executive session for.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second, and so the formal meeting will now be ended for the individual boards to go in, groups to discuss the items that we set forth for the September 6th meeting.
You're done.
You're not coming back.
And we're not coming back in. Thanks.